Today you're going to learn how to use the FTX API, specifically the REST API in Python, to grab market data and trade data, asset data, and potentially even trade data. But first things first, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get our imports. I'll type in each one and cover why I'm importing it as we go. So import date time, pretty self-explanatory, but we need to be able to manipulate date time data. Import requests. We need to be able to make API requests to the via HTTPS to the API. Import pandas as PD so we can manipulate the data as a data frame. From client, import FTX client. Now this is something that was downloaded from GitHub. It isn't in pip, so you just have to be careful, because if someone says, oh yeah, download my client from my repository, they theoretically could put something not so nice or some malicious code in the client, and you never want that. So anytime you're downloading connectivity stuff like this, just do a quick glance and make sure that it's from a legitimate source and there's nothing funky going on in there. And then from local settings, import FTX US as settings. This is just my API key and API secret. I've covered the local settings file multiple times, but I'll put an example in GitHub. All right, perfect. So with the imports out of the way, the next thing we want to do is use the Market API. So using the FTX Market API. So there's a lot of information that we can get from the Market API. I'm going to go ahead and paste this, make it a little easier for you whenever you're browsing the API. But basically, here's what we'll be greeted with after making an API request. You can easily see this stuff on the FTX US docs. So we'll go to the REST API. You can see markets, and we can see a response format. Order book, get a single market, historical prices. There's all sorts of stuff. And by the time that you're done with this tutorial, you'll be able to read this too, right? It's pretty easy to do. So you'll see what I mean. So let's go ahead and make our first request. So we'll do a get request to the Markets API, create an API URL, HTTPS, FTX US API. We'll do the API will be markets, and the URL equals API plus API, nope, I've got that backwards, API URL plus API. And then if I type that out, we should see the proper URL, and that looks correct. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll use the requests to make to get the market response data. Okay, so we'll say markets equal requests.get and our URL that we just created, and we'll get that in JSON. And then what we'll do is we'll say data equals markets result. Well, I'll show you how this, it might be helpful to see how this data is returned first. So you can see that it's returned as JSON. Scroll down here, and that's essentially what you get. So success is true, and then we have this results dictionary. So what we'll do is we'll just say data equals markets result, and then data. And you can see now we've got just the results in a manner that we can use for pandas, right? So let's scroll down here, create a new column, row. We'll say df equal pd, data frame, data. df equals df.set index. I'm just cleaning it. Well, again, I'll just show you the nitty gritty. So you can see that it's not in the best of format. We want to make it more readable. So what we can do is we'll just do df.set index. We'll set the index to the name, which is just the ticker here. And then just to make it a little more legible right here, I'm just going to slice it just to print it out. Okay. All right, and you can see, let's see, what did I do there? Oh, I messed that up. There we go. All right, so you can see here what it looks like. We just have a data frame with some data here. Pretty simple, right? We just made a request, Okay, got JSON back, converted it to a data frame. So let's do that again. This time we'll get individual market data. This time we'll create a GET request to markets, and then it'll be the market name. So we'll do Ethereum. Why don't we do Ethereum? So market name equal FUSD. Do path equals, we'll do the string, whoops, this is markets, and then market name. URL equals API URL plus path, and then URL. And you can see that, we now have the URL for the single market. We can check this because we can go to markets, single market, and you can see right here, get markets market name. That's why, essentially that comment there is exactly what we need. So we've also got the response, which we saw previously, and you can even do order book depth and stuff like that. So basically, pretty simple. That's what we need. So we've got the URL formatted correctly. Now we just go ahead and make that same request. So we'll do response equal request.get URL JSON df equals pd data frame result response, sorry, and then we'll do result, right? Because remember, that dictionary had multiple results. We'll do df here, right? So now we have that data frame with the response for that single market. So you can see the ask, the base currency, bid, all of that type of stuff. So pretty simple. So you might say, you know what, Leo, I actually want to get the historical data. Well, we can do that too. Get historical data. Okay, so let's see what we need here. Get historical prices. We can see this is the, essentially the request we need to make. So let's go ahead and get, okay. All right, and then perfect. So now what we need to do is just construct that. So we need the resolution equals 60 seconds times 60 minutes times 24. So that'll give us, how many minutes, because the historical data is in minutes, how many minutes in a day, and that's 86,400. So we've got the resolution down. Now we need to do the start, and we'll go ahead and do start equals date time, 2022, 1/1, timestamp. Actually, let's make sure, because I think we can only get a month. So it's February, so we'll just do 2/1. Yeah. Okay. And then we'll get start. Okay, so that's our start date. Okay, now let's go ahead and construct that string. So path equals, we'll do an F string, markets, market name, which we have above, right? Candles equal, candles, resolution equals resolution, and start equals start. Okay, then we'll do URL equals API URL plus path, and URL. Let's see what we got there. So, okay, so we've got our API, then we've got our market, then we have candles resolution, and the start. Okay, so hopefully we got that correct. And then what we can do is the same exact request we did before. So response equal request, get URL, and grab JSON, or convert it to JSON rather. df equals pd data frame, result, response result, df date. Well, let's see here. We'll just see what this looks like. Okay, so we can see we've got this data frame. Now we can make it a little prettier. We'll do df date equals pd to date time, df, and then that's that start time. That'll convert that to a date. And then what else do we need? We'll set the index to date. So df equals df set index date. and we can drop that start time and time. So df equals drop columns equal start time and time. Let's see if we got that correct. Okay, so that looks correct. Let's see, volume. Okay, so it looks pretty, I guess it is by minute, so maybe there wasn't much volume there. Okay. All right, so that's how to get historical data. Obviously, you can loop through it if you want to get multiple assets, but pretty simple. Now, the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and get order book data. And you'll notice, let's go to the API, order book, here's the API request we need to make, and here's the parameters, and here's the response format, okay? And I'll go ahead and put that in the Jupyter Notebook when I'm done, just to make things easier. So let's go ahead and, well, I should have copied that. Copy this, make a comment. All right, so we'll do depth equals 20, path equals markets, market name, order book, and then depth, and we'll pass that depth. Okay, and we'll do URL equals API URL plus path. We've done this previously. Let's make sure our URL is constructed correctly. That looks good. And now let's make the request. So response equals request.get URL JSON. We'll do bids equals PD data frame. And again, I already know how this is formatted. So we get the results, and then from there we just take the bids. Okay, and then we'll do asks equal PD data frame results, and type asks, and now bid columns equal, well, let's go ahead, I'll show you what happens here. So we'll just say bids. Let's see what I do there. No results. Okay, path, API, URL. That looks good. Request.get URL JSON. Bids, PD data frame. Let's see what we got with our response. This is always fun to do live on YouTube, right? Okay, so we did get that. Bids and asks. Okay, so result and then, okay. So bids equals pd.dataframe results and bids result. That's what I did. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so we can see now that we've got the bids and the asks, but 0 and 1s don't really help us that much. So what we'll do is we'll do bids columns equal bid price and bid amount, and asks dot columns equal, you guessed it, ask price, ask amount. So now we'll just do bids, the head. All right, so that makes things a lot more easier to see. Now what we'll want to do is we'll just merge these, because it'll just be better to have them, in one table, at least I think so. So df pd merge, and then it's just bids, asks, and what do we want to merge on? We want to merge on the left and right indices. So we'll do, and when I say left and right, that means the index of both data frames, right? So left index, which is bids, we'll do true, and then the right index, which is asks, is true, and that should merge them. Hopefully this won't make a liar out of me. Let's see, and I keep doing that, bids and asks. All right, there we go, perfect. So now we've got our bids and asks, and if we really want to, we can also get some summary statistics on this. df describe, right? So you can see, mean, standard deviation, and all of that. So perfect. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get the trades. Okay, get trades. So you're starting to see a pattern, right? It's pretty easy. Once you start using APIs, it's pretty trivial. So here's the request. Okay. Make sure I got that right. Get trades. Yep. Okay. Now what we want to do is put that there and create the URL. So path equals FTX Markets, market name, which we have as, from previously set as FUSD or ETH, I guess it's ETH, Ethereum. So URL equals API URL plus path and URL. Let's see if that gives us the correct URL. It looks like it is. So what we'll do is now we'll get the trades. Again, response equals request dot get URL JSON df equals PD data frame, and you know the drill at this point, result. I cannot results, and df head. Oh boy, maybe I should quit today. Okay, data frame, yeah. There we go. Okay. Guess I'm gonna have to check. Okay, let's see here. All right, look at the response. Okay, so that's the problem, right? So it looks like something goofed up, and that's what it is. I messed up the API. So what we do now is, now that we've corrected that, we can get the proper response. This is a problem about live coding on YouTube, but that's okay. I'll keep the mistakes in there because no one's perfect. And then hit enter here. Okay, perfect. So now what we do, now we've got the trades, right? So pretty easy. So now we can do this with futures too. So if you're interested in futures, we're working with FTX futures. And it's really more of the same, right? We just get the URL. So we'll say URL equals HTTPS FTX.com futures. It's a different URL. Equal request.get URL JSON response. And let's see what you can see here where I go to futures, right? So and search for, futures. And now you can also work with futures if you want to. It's pretty easy. So we'll just do URL Now you can also grab futures too. It's pretty easy. It's the same thing, right? URL HTTPS. Well, this time it'll be a .com futures. And that's it. I mean, if you wanted to work with futures or any other markets, it's the same process, but pretty simple to use, the FTX API. And for the most part, almost most. And that's it. It's pretty easy to use, the FTX API or almost any API for that instance once you get the hang of it, right? You just make a request to the API and, manipulate the data in the format that you want and then analyze the results, right? So hopefully this was helpful. If it was, please go ahead and hit the thumbs up button and I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.